Hello, and welcome to Draft Day. This is John Fleming. I am one of the hosts of Draft Day, joined, as always, by the other host of Draft Day, Jason Bradshaw. How you doing, Jason?
Dude, it's not an Oscars draft today, so it's far less stressful to get prepared for. But
Yeah, probably. This is kind of the opposite of the Oscars draft in the sense that um, I spent less. There's been less time since we came up with the idea for this draft between then and now than the amount of time that I put into prep for the Oscars draft. So yeah, this should be a bit of a loose one, I think, but kind of going to have hopefully a quick, breezy little episode here. That who knows, it could end up going super long. We'll
yeah,
see, kind of how we end up going because kind of famous last words is we're going to keep it quick because I've seen some of our episodes. I Oscars when we knew it was going to be long. Because I didn't know it was going to be that long, but I figured it would be long. But this one I don't think is going to be 3 hours.
I mean, if it is, then I will really be scratching bottom of the barrel. I think.
Yeah, the one possible thing is we haven't actually set a cap on how long we're going to do this draft for, because there's really kind of an infinite number of things we can draft. The thing that we are going to be drafting, though, is in honor of today being the day that this is being posted, not the day that we're actually recording it, but in honor of 314 Day, we are drafting our top St. Louis things. The parameters here are extremely loose, but we are paying tribute to St. Louis. You are, of course, from St. Louis. I am from and still live in the St. Louis area. But, we have kind of our things. I think that an interesting thing about St. Louis, I think most cities are kind of like this, but I think St. Louis is kind of an outsized version of it, is people are very, like, protective and defensive and very, like, provincial about their tastes. So I am ready to exhibit some of that in this draft, and I hope you're ready to do the same.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head with some of this stuff. It's like a lot of this for me. It's like when I was prepping for the draft. It's what do I miss, or what are like things that I have to do when I'm, back visiting. Like my family still lives there, so things like that. I think were definitely part of it. So it's just getting to know, um, you know, try to figure out what I miss and what I get back for. That kind of stuff was sort of my thinking to it. But and who knows, maybe the stuff some of the things I came up with that you're like that doesn't exist anymore. So who knows? Could be a fun one though.
But that could just be into like the history of St. Louis too. Like
That's true.
if one of us picked like Shop and Save, I guess that would be kind of weird, but
I
it's
mean, I do have a lot
technically
of memories. Grew
possible.
up right next to a Shop and Save. Walked to Shop and Save a lot in summers as a kid. So
That's true. I used to live, not as a child, but as an adult. I would live within walking distance of a Shop and Save, and I would occasionally go there just kind of out of boredom. But that speaks more to my boredom than my actual affection for the store. Store's pretty good, but not necessarily a thing I'm
yeah,
drafting here. But
I mean, it's like if you were drafting anything, I think it would have to be like the jingle or something. Like the more you shop, the more you save for total value at Shop and Save. R.I.P. Shop and
I
Save.
always forget that it's for total value. Like I know that there's a line in there, but I always
And like a deep, very white voice.
yeah, like sometimes like they would have versions of it where it'd be like it sounded like they were like doing some sort of like clip in there. Like they
Yeah.
were sampling some sort of obscure like blues song or something. But anyway, it is time to draft. I'm again, we didn't consult on this at all, so this is, I would say, probably the most wide open draft we've had. I don't know that we necessarily have like that much overlap of stealing thing in the Oscars draft, but we were at least drawing from the same pool. I guess technically we're drawing from the same pool here, but there's like thousands of things. So why don't you go ahead and why don't you get the ball rolling here?
All right. Well, then I'll get the ball rolling, and I am going to take your dog at number one.
That
Uh,
is, well, my dog is not a St. Louis thing because my dog, all of
where
his
does your
early
dog
medical
reside?
records. Well, he currently resides in St. Louis, but all of his early medical records that we got whenever we adopted him noted an 816 area code, so he is actually
Oh,
of the Kansas City area.
hey, man, that was a joke answer for the record, though. But John's dog is very good.
He is
For
very
anybody, but I'm gonna go lame with the number 1 overall pick here. I'm gonna take the St. Louis Blues as my number 1 pick, just because
Okay.
now
Are you
hockey is
choosing the
my sport.
song or the team? Okay, the team.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the team. The song would be "The Blues Have the Urge" goal song. In parentheses, "Let's Go Blues" by the Urge.
Well, that's real disrespect of W.C. Handy to omit the song St. Louis Blues, but
Well,
it's your selection, so.
I mean, as much as I loved hearing that on the radio growing up, after Blues games, but no, I mean it's hockey's my favorite sport. There's nothing like going to a hockey game. I miss having professional or even minor league hockey close to me. Where I live now, I can go to some like club college hockey games, and that's about it. So, but that's why I'm forcing my son to learn to ice skate, so I can go to his hockey games and be that dad. So,
Yeah, it's going to end up being like the highest end hockey within the area, probably.
I mean, probably.
Because Kansas City has an ECHL team, right? Or is that no longer the
I believe the
case?
Mavericks still exist. Tulsa has
Okay.
their Tulsa Oilers, which is about not too much further away than Kansas City or St. Louis from me.
Gotcha.
But yeah, we used to have a very low tier junior team that played here when I first moved down here. Actually, with my wife, we went on a date to a game and they won like 17-1. It was a fantastic game to just like sit back and kind of laugh at.
Sounds
That
very high level hockey there.
it was something. But yeah, I don't think a whole lot else needs to be said. I went with the Blues, so
All right,
I'll toss it to you.
for my number 1 pick, I feel like it's only right to start off with a item of local cuisine. So I am going with what is my favorite item of local cuisine. It is available sometimes in other places, but it's really a staple of St. Louis. It is gooey butter cake. It is,
That's a
in
very good one.
my humble opinion, it is the perfect dessert. It is just absurdly gluttonous, absurdly delicious, and so the furthest away from St. Louis I've ever had gooey butter cake was actually 2 years ago at the Wisconsin State Fair. They were trying to push off gooey butter cake as like this exciting new item that they were introducing as fair food, and it was okay. It was like, I mean, it was good. It was gooey butter cake, obviously,
Right.
but like it tasted basically the same as if I like walked into Schnucks and bought like an individual slice of gooey butter cake for like $3, which I can do at like every Schnucks in the area.
Yep.
And to me, that just sort of solidified. Like, there are some St. Louis food things. Some of them are good. Some of them are a little more of a acquired taste. This is the one that I think is like truly elite.
I mean, I agree. I mean, obviously, you go to any bakery in St. Louis, pretty much you can come up with one. And then Gooey Louie's, I think, what was the OG kind of, of distributing it. But yeah, I mean, dude, it's basically a cake where like it's mostly butter. Like, what's not to love about it? And then you just throw a bunch of powdered sugar on top.
Yeah, it's a very simple dish, and that's sort of what makes me very confused why it hasn't taken off more places. Like, did people get a bad taste in their mouth over other St. Louis dishes, and they decided that if St. Louisans like it, it must be bad? Is this some sort of like green eggs and ham situation where we just think it sounds bad? I don't know how you could think it sounds bad, but it certainly makes more sense than thinking it tastes bad.
I mean, I'm with you, and I will say something to the people of St. Louis: stop trying to do all these stupid flavors with it. Like, you know, there's nothing wrong with the original. I won't lie. I like a good chocolate gooey butter cake if it's done well. But other than
Yeah,
that, like I don't
I
need
like the
red
peanut butter
velvet.
one. The peanut
Oh,
butter
go
one I
ahead.
like, but generally speaking, I would rather devote my energy to making peanut butter flavors of like other things and keep the gooey butter cake just kind of as it is.
I mean, and I mean, dude, the if you've ever had a chance, places have gooey butter cake ice cream,
Oh
like
yeah.
next level.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, and now I'm
Absolutely.
just thinking of the times when I would get the cookie sandwiches after being out at karaoke, having a drink or two, and literally having an ice cream sandwich with gooey butter cake, ice cream in the middle from Hot Box
The
Cookies. Oh
yeah. R.I.P. to Tom's, but
yes, R.I.P. Tom's.
um,
That's where.
we would get. I remember it would be like at least I would get like the peanut butter cookies, and then the sandwich being the gooey butter ice cream, and it was at like 1 o'clock in the morning after you've like not only been drinking but also you're kind of sweating a little bit because it's kind of a warm bar and people are it's crowded. It's elite.
Yeah, that's hard to top. I would always do one peanut butter, one chocolate chip with the gooey butter cake ice cream in the middle. That
Oh,
was. We sound so fat right now, but
I haven't had hot box in a while. I gotta rectify that soon.
yeah. One of the funniest things ever is that was like before my dad retired, because obviously they moved his offices down close to where that is now, and like that's what my dad would pick for somebody to bring in, because like the next birthday would always like provide the snack or whatever at his office. So he would always tell the person that's getting, or he's like, "Oh, just bring in hot box cookies." Like that's what my dad would get. Which I'm like,
Yeah, good call.
me at 1 in the morning and my dad at 10 a.m. have something in common, I guess. So
I mean, I'm not gonna argue at either time of the day.
yeah, I mean, dude, cookies are always good. I mean, but all right, I guess I'll go to my next pick, and I'm gonna take what is arguably the most St. Louis thing ever, and I'm gonna take the question: Where'd you go to high school?
So I don't have that on my list, but I did think about it. So
Um, because like really more than even some of these other things I think we're going to talk about it being quintessential St. Louis, like this is something like that we just consciously do when you meet somebody from St. Louis. Like, where I live now, there's a decent number of people who grew up in St. Louis, and you don't even think about it, or you just be like, oh yeah, so where'd you go to high school? But it tells you where they, the general area they lived in. It tells you, in some cases, maybe their financial status growing up, kind of a
yeah,
thing. Um, there's always the, if they're private school, okay, kind of a thing. But it's like it's a unique way of just instead of saying where are you from, like you're like, oh, I'm from St. Louis. Oh, cool. Where'd you go to high school? And like I still do that as a almost 34-year-old man, like to people. So it's like to me, it. While it's not like oh, it's one of my favorite. It's so quintessentially St. Louis. I feel like that
oh, very,
it's
very much so.
very deserving of being drafted high.
Yeah, I think that the reason that it works well for St. Louis is that people tend to just say that they're from St. Louis if they're from anywhere in the St. Louis area. So I could ask somebody if I ask somebody who say went to like Francis Howell High School where they're from, there's a decent chance they're going to say St. Louis, even though they're from like 30 miles away from the city limits. And like both of us grew up in like the suburbs of St. Louis. You in like a very small suburb that if we mentioned this last episode, like if my grandma hadn't been there, I probably wouldn't even know what it was.
Yeah. I didn't
And
really tell people the name of the little like township I was in most of the time because I would just give them landmarks.
yeah, because they're not going to know, and they're just gonna be like, oh, that's St. Louis. And like I grew up, and I've said where I grew up. I grew up in Oakville, but like people don't really know where Oakville is. So the thing is, I can either say St. Louis, and then that's going to be a satisfactory answer for people that aren't from the St. Louis area, or I can say St. Louis, and then people are going to ask follow ups of where'd you go to high school? Oh, I went to Oakville. Okay, that tells me where you're from, and yeah, I And like I'm not judging people based on where they went to high school. I'm just trying to like kind of get an idea of their background.
Yeah,
Not because
it's
I'm gonna try to like thumb my nose at them, or
no, and
because I'm
if
gonna
they
like think of
happen,
them as
or if they happen to be from like close to where you are, that leads into much more conversations because it is a very regionalized city within the suburbs or the what's the word I'm trying to think of here? The metropolitan area.
yeah.
Like, yeah, I did not venture out to, I mean, even Chesterfield often because I didn't need to. That was a 25-minute drive or whatever. Why would I do that? You know, but, everybody would still say, oh, I'm from St. Louis. So it's,
Yeah, good call. So for my next pick, I am gonna go once again to the well of food, just because that was the way I thought. I'm actually not even sure if this is a food you like. I don't know if we've ever discussed this before, but I just want to get it on my team. I am gonna go with the Red Hot Riplets. The reason I
wow.
am gonna go with the reason I'm gonna go with Red Hot Riplets is because the thing that stands out to me is it's like a very unique chip in the sense that like it's not like this is like a St. Louis brand of like potato chip or a St. Louis brand of like stick pretzel or something like that. Like it is a thing that people are not used to, and like you can incorporate that flavor into different things. Like there's a burger place that's not too far from where I live that you can get fries that are like dusted with Red Hot Riplet seasoning. If you go to Gramophone, the sandwich place that's located in town, you can get a similar thing with I think it's with their chips, but you get what is that? I'm blanking on exactly it is, but you get the Red Hot Riplet flavoring and it just adds something special to it. It's the thing that like Luther Burden, who's a Mizzou football player who's from St. Louis area, he has his own special brand of Red Hot Riplets, which are pretty good and which cost like basically the same as the regular ones anyway. So I'm happy to get those from time to time. And like it's because it's quintessentially like we're just trying to identify that this person's from St. Louis, and I think they are fantastic. The one drawback to them, I think, is that sometimes you'll get a bag of them and they're like maybe a fifth of the way full. It's just a ton of air in the bag. That also just kind of underscores how delicious they are.
So yeah, it's one of those things that I wish that my palate would have developed when I lived there more. When I was a younger kid, I didn't do much in terms of spice, and I've had them. I care much more for spice now in my older age, if you will. But that's one of the comforts of home that you know I don't really see readily available around here. Um, I'll be honest, I don't always look for it, and I just frankly don't buy potato chips all that often. And it's not because I don't like potato chips. It's because I have a self control problem and will eat an entire bag of potato chips.
Well, that's actually another positive about the Red Hot Riplets is that they have some larger bags of them, but for the most part, they're a size bag where if you eat the whole thing, it's like slightly indulgent, but it's not like you're eating like a whole bag of like Lay's where you eat the whole thing
Yeah,
and you're like, oh, I feel like a disaster right now.
yeah. It's not slamming a Costco size bag of Doritos and questioning your life choices. But no, that's a good one. I'll be honest, didn't even come up in my brain, but it's something that you know I certainly appreciate, especially if they're willing to dish out NIL money to Mizzou players. so
We love it.
so go go support them.
All right,
So
you are
then,
up.
so what I will do then is this wasn't going to be a pick this high, but I'm gonna vamp on this. If we're having the snacks, got red hot relis. It's a little bit spicy. Got a little heat on the tongue. You might want to cool off. Give me Vess soda with the next pick.
Nice.
Um, and a fun story about this for anyone, I don't really care to say. I live in Springfield, Missouri, so 3 hours south of St. Louis now. And my wife and I, 2 weekends ago, were at the store at one of the local grocery stores here, and on an end cap, they had 2 liters of Vess soda. First time
Wow.
I'd seen it down here. So you bet your butt I walked away with a 2-liter bottle of Whistle Orange soda.
You got to get
And
Whistle Orange. Yeah,
yeah,
that's.
like, all right. So I'll ask you give me top 3 if you're going Vess. I mean, Whistle obviously in there.
So it's hard to say. It's hard to say with Vest because so I don't really drink it super often because I like pretty exclusively drink diet soda at this point in my life. But like I always appreciate the fact that the flavors are just different. Like I'm not going to get Vest and just get like the cola. Like their cola's okay, but like I can just get Coke or Pepsi for that. Um, I remember liking the root beer quite a bit. Is that
Hmm.
am I
Yeah,
misremembering that? Okay.
no, that's a good one.
Um, and let me think here. They have like a fruit punch flavor.
Yes, that is an underrated gem. The fruit punch.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what some of their more kind of exotic flavors are because
Yeah, like their cream. I remember was interesting because it was like pink
cream
cream.
is good. Yeah,
It was like pink cream soda. Um, yeah, I mean, and the thing was, the coolest thing to me as a kid was these. This is one of those soda brands. When I was growing up, and oddly enough, we brought it up when we would go to Shop and Save every so often. My dad, they had build your own, like I
yeah,
forget, I think it's 24 packs
just
basically.
yeah, with those like 6x4 kind of like
Yeah,
trays.
trays, and you could just pick out whichever ones you wanted. So my dad would be like, "All right, you know, everybody from the family can kind of pick out some different sodas they want."
Yeah,
And it'd go home and sit in the fridge, and they would get down to the last couple and fight over who could actually have what. Nobody wanted Dad's diet colas because Dad was boring, but so like I remember it was a tough decision because did I want a cherry cola? Did I want the cream, root beer, fruit punch? I want to say was there like a strawberry kiwi or watermelon kiwi or something? Maybe I don't remember,
that sounds
but
familiar. That sounds like something that would have scared me as a child, though. So
yeah, and it's I went through a phase as a kid, but like nowadays you just everything's in a long 12-pack box, and stores started kind of going to having their own, like even Shop and Save went to like their own brand later on. I think it was called like Super Chill Soda or something like that,
yeah, that's just
and
not as good.
it wasn't as good. I mean, and St. Louis Institution, Vest Soda Company. There's other soda places in St. Louis that are maybe a little more artisan.
Yeah,
But to me, it's going to play on that nostalgia factor for me. Like when I was a kid, getting to go pick out Vest sodas at the grocery store, like with my dad. Like most of the time, my dad was one who would go grocery shopping, and he kind of rotate through one or two kids to take with him. I have a brother and a sister, so and I would always want to go because I could do that. Between that and missing the fact that we're used to be able to like rent movies from grocery stores.
what a glorious time.
Oh my gosh, dude! Going.
I have like no nostalgia for Blockbuster, but paying like $1 to rent a VHS tape
Mhm.
at Deerberg's was
Yep, dude. That
treasured
was
memory.
I would get to rent Super Nintendo games. I used to have to do treatments. I have psoriasis when I was in late elementary, early middle school, where I couldn't move and I had to wear this like plastic hat on my head. So my mom would take me to what was it? I guess it was Schnucks, and I would go in and get to like rent a Super Nintendo game. And it was like $3 for 5 days.
Yeah.
And I oh
So I have this is very weird, but I have two extremely specific memories of renting things, and we were a Deerberg's family, so it's from Deerberg's. So the first sport, so I didn't own a sports video game whenever I first got a Sega Genesis, but I rented NHL '96,
oh, that's a
and
solid one to start with.
and this was me as like what was I probably like 6 or 7? I guess I was 7, but I had never, but like I remember waking up at like 5:30 in the morning on a Saturday, which for a 7-year-old is like deranged behavior. And the
Dude,
Genesis was downstairs at my parents' house, and just kind of tiptoeing downstairs so I could just play this game. And I played it like the whole day. And then
that's
the other thing which is somehow more nerdy is that the video that I rented more often than any other video was, and I have no idea why this is, The for some reason they had the 1994-95 New Jersey Devils championship video. A team I don't care about, have never cared about, will never care about. But like for some reason it just like stuck with me. They played the Van Halen song "Running with the Devil." Definitely the first time I heard that song repeatedly throughout the video, and so my family was pretty stingy about renting like new releases, so that like had to really be a special occasion. You had to like really kind of sell on why you wanted to rent it. But that one was always $1, and shockingly, in suburban St. Louis, was always available because there wasn't a lot of demand for it. But
I just imagine the poor like guy running the video store thing. It's like, gosh, why do we still have this New Jersey Devils tape? Can't we just like send it in and get something else in here? Bro, it sells every month. I don't know why, but we make money on it.
yeah,
So you
it's
could have
like
been
our.
that guy.
Yeah, I like to think that like over the course of like 1997 or something, it was like I'm trying to like that and like Toy Story were the most rented movies there or something like that.
Oh
But
man,
anyway, we
that's
started
great.
talking about soda and we got to this, so we
Yeah.
are
Hey, it's you never know what you're getting here on draft day, especially on
yeah.
an unplanned episode.
So I am so just so you know, I'm gonna so I didn't have any soda things on my kind of list of options. So I'm gonna just stick not drafting any soda, but I will special shout outs to Ski, which is Metro East, but is a delightful lemon lime soda, and also Fitz's root beer, which my wife's family loves, and we've been in situations where we're taking like 24 packs of it from like the Fitz's location and bringing it up to Wisconsin whenever we visit them. So
Yeah. Now
that's
my wife, not from the St. Louis area, and does not drink soda, except when we were in St. Louis. We go to Fitz's South almost every time. So, and she will get a soda mug there and try a few of the different sodas because she thinks they're good. So,
yeah,
which
they have
you can get Fitz's down here, like they have distribution. So, you know,
yeah
or you can get the bottles and
decent.
stuff, but it's not as good as getting it on tap at the restaurant.
No, with the frosted mug, yeah,
It's next level.
yeah, that is so I've like seen their cocktail menu there, and it looks like it's actually pretty good. But why would I do that? Like, I'll get like an alcoholic drink other places, but like they have
Yeah.
frosted mugs of fruit beer. What am I like? Come on.
I mean,
All
I'm
right.
sure it'll come out. There's plenty of other places to grab drinks and that specialize in making alcoholic drinks in the St. Louis area. So,
Yes, there are. Right now though, I'm actually going to move away from the food and drink realm. This is really more of a concept than it is a more of a tangible thing. How much we hate Stan Kroenke is my third pick. So there are definitely people out there who think that St. Louisans need to kind of move on from hating Stan Kroenke. And for our own like well-being, that's probably true. But the idea that we're like united in hatred towards this guy, I think is just such a pure thing and such a like a remarkable thing that kind of like galvanized St. Louis. And this is really like the big sports thing I have on my list because, like you mentioned, the Blues, and I'm not going to denigrate the Blues. Obviously, I literally have a Blues game on in the background right now as I'm recording this. But they're up to nothing, by the way. But
woo, go Blues.
like, if I were born in some other part of the country, I'd probably just be rooting for a different team. Same goes
Yeah,
for the Cardinals.
four.
But and obviously if I weren't born in St. Louis I wouldn't have ever rooted for the Rams in the first place, but the fact that everybody just like unites in their loathing of this guy, the fact that people will break out into Cronky sucks chants whenever the Colorado Avalanche come to town, the fact that whenever I went to the first St. Louis Battlehawks game in 2020, I was kind of taking bets with people I was going with of how quickly we would hear a Cronky Sucks chant. And I was like, I think probably like around like the opening kickoff. And the answer was like as I was walking in the door, there was already one going on. And I
That's
encourage I encourage every city to like pick a common enemy and just like get mad at them. Like honestly, if people in Seattle wanted to just like chant that Clay Bennett sucks all the time, like I'm not gonna argue with you.
Yeah.
Like like even if you're like an Oklahoma City Thunder fan, you're probably gonna be like, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's and like you said, it's a weird unifying thing. You know, I'm probably more over it than you in the sense, but does that mean if do I still call the Colorado Avalanche? I mean, we colloquially refer to them as the Ice Cronkies. I mean,
Yes.
and if there was ever a reason for St. Louis to become sister cities with Liverpool, England, I mean, or Arsenal, sorry,
Yeah.
not Liverpool, but wherever Arsenal is located, like,
London, but
isn't, I mean, become sister cities and just have Battlehawks fans and Arsenal FC fans join together to just
yeah,
scream the
that's
hatred of Stan Kroenke.
that's part of what's fun about it is that like people who are fans of teams that he owns, like Arsenal fans, like even like fans of like the good teams in Denver, like they don't particularly like the guy.
Yeah,
Like it's what I always say about people complain about Dallas Cowboys fans, but what I always say is Cowboys fans seem to really hate Jerry Jones, and you got to respect that.
I mean, I live in a city where Jerry Jones owns a lot of things here, including rows of buildings that just have like Dallas Cowboys stars on them that are like shopping
Ugh,
centers. It's
gross.
yeah. So it's a but that's not what we're talking about. Yeah, the hatred of Stan Kroenke, and people would think, oh, well, okay, they settled. The city has the money now. You would think it would stop. I fully expect to hear one. Opening the opening home game for the Battlehawks.
Yeah,
On the first week of April.
the chant isn't Cronky still owes us money. The chant is Cronky
He
sucks. That part's
sucks.
not
I mean,
rectified
and it's
by the
but the
lawsuit.
worst part is that the man's name is Enos Stanley Kroenke, named after two St. Louis Cardinal legends, and he still can't curry favor. It almost makes it
Yeah,
better. It's
one of the pettier, funnier things that St. Louis do is refuse to call him Stan because Stan Musial is like generally regarded not only as a great player but as a super great guy.
yeah.
And instead make sure to emphasize the Enos part, one, because Enos is just a stupid name, and two, because Enos Slaughter is a much more problematic character in baseball history.
I mean,
So like, no, we're not gonna honor you by calling you Stan, who
yeah.
we all
I mean,
like.
and most of the time we just call him Kroenke. I mean,
Yes.
it's not. He's yeah. He does suck. Like the chants don't lie.
I'm not opposed to if I could go back in time to like 2001, whenever Josh Kroenke was inexplicably starting for the Mizzou basketball team, doing Kroenke sucks chants there too, because like he was bad at basketball and for some reason played a lot.
He he. Well, I mean, we saw everything that happened with the money that was given when they then tried to build the new arena. It's kind of
Beach Sports Arena, baby.
RIP Page Sports Arena, aka now just Mizzou Arena, because nobody else. They're like, oh, I guess we're not selling any naming rights now. We're just gonna. Thanks for the money,
Yeah,
though.
I'd like to think that around like 2005 or 2006, they were gonna like name it like FEMA Arena. Like they was gonna like keep going down the lane to things that were gonna become increasingly unpopular.
Well, so we could call something the DRF Arena now, or still too soon, or
Not for me, I don't care, but
I
maybe
could,
too soon for
yeah.
some people.
I didn't go to school there, so I really don't have much of a vested interest. But
All right, you are on the clock.
I am on the clock. All right. So the next thing I'm gonna take is the fact that we love, and even if we don't do it instinctively, love to call Interstate 44 Farty Far.
Already far? Okay.
I'm gonna take Farty Far just as another fun colloquialism. It's not even like the thing is, it's like I think it probably originated in the generation maybe before us. Like I don't think
Yeah.
our generation called it that.
Yeah, like I don't like the only thing of that like style that I ever hear is whenever people say Warsh.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the last remnant of it. And even then, it's people that are like my parents' age. It's not
Yeah.
really a thing that.
It's like I heard stuff like that, but like my dad's from the Boot Heel. My mom was born in West Virginia. So like, you know, we had some twang that would make its way into the home sometimes. But, you know, as a thing, as a concept, I think it's funny. And it's apparently something that we're fairly known for. So yeah, and to stick with the highway theme, I'll also throw in there. I love calling Interstate 64 Highway 40 still. So
Boo! I was
it's
really
highway.
worried you were going to take that.
It's Highway 40, baby.
I
But
will never call it Highway 40. That is a strident refusal on my part.
yeah,
But
well, it's okay to be wrong.
well, Farty Far was your pick though, so I'm gonna just
Yes.
just to that one's
Yeah.
fine. It wasn't on my
Yeah.
list, but it's fine. I'm not mad about it.
That's fair. That's fair.
All right.
Take it away.
So far, I have drafted gooey butter cake and red hot riplets. So got some food taken care of. I need something to drink though, and for my
Where's
beverage
he
of
going?
choice, there are a lot of very good beers from St. Louis. I'm actually drinking a St. Louis beer that I wouldn't say is very good, but is like fine, which is Bud Select. Um,
Yeah, Bud
but
Select.
there are many very good beers. To me, there's one truly elite beer in St. Louis, and that is the Schlafly Pumpkin Ale,
Oh,
which is
nice.
like widely regarded as, if not the best pumpkin beer in the country, one of the best, and is just like it's a cliche to say it, but it tastes like you're just drinking pumpkin pie. And we have a mutual friend of ours that loves to complain every year in like August whenever Schlafly Pumpkin Ale comes out, and I'm the exact opposite. I say like if you're selling Schlafly Pumpkin Ale in like May or June, and you can guarantee to me that it's fresh, I'll drink it. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the there's something on a fall day, not in the winter time, but when like the chill of fall comes, there's just something refreshing about that. Um, I'll also give another shout out to like I would call it 1A, 1B in terms of my favorite St. Louis pumpkin beers. Square One Brewery has a great pumpkin beer as well that they do.
Yeah, they
Um,
do, but they don't sell in stores, so it's a little bit harder to.
yeah, but it's a very St. Louis thing. When I'm in St. Louis, if I'm there at that time, I'm like, let's go to Square One because I would like to have the pumpkin beer because it's very more pumpkin forward than maybe versus like pumpkin spicy ish kind of forward,
Yeah, that
which
one
I
tastes
enjoy.
more like pumpkin than any other one I've had.
Agreed. Um, but yeah, I mean, Schlafly in general, I think the Schlafly pumpkin maybe encapsulates kind of the greatness of what Schlafly is. You know, for a long time, I remember it used to kind of be like, oh, this is the cool thing for like St. Louis, and now like everybody's like, oh yeah, I know Schlafly.
It's everywhere, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah, and a nice underrated thing about Schlafly that not part of my pick, but I feel like I should note is that shout out to the fact that Schlafly just calls all their beers what they are.
mhm.
Like the fact, like you know how many, and I'm somebody that enjoys IPAs, but you know how many times I've wanted to order an IPA or buy like a pack of IPAs, and it's just some like super punny name based on like how intense it is or whatever, and it's just obnoxious. And like I don't know what it is. Like I don't know what exactly does this mean? Like oh, this is called like the Terror. What is the Terror? That
So,
like, no, it's Schlafly Pumpkin Ale. It's Schlafly Pale Ale. It's Schlafly Hefeweizen. It's Schlafly American IPA. Like if you know what beer styles are, which is like pretty universal if you're that kind of person, then you're not going to be misled about it.
no, I agree. It's no, you're definitely not gonna, be, you know, I don't know. Yeah, you get what you get. It's good stuff, and yeah, I guess that's all I got.
All right, you're up.
All right. It's funny that you had beer on there and you went with the Schlafly Pumpkin Ale, which makes it good because beer is also what I had was going to go with next. And I know you're a fan of this one as well. I assume you probably know
I,
where I'm
I
going. I'm
I bet
going
I
to go
do.
with the Four Hands chocolate milk stout.
Very
My
good choice.
my
Very good.
favorite beer to come out of St. Louis that I can easily get where I live. I live right next to a fairly large liquor store that always has it in stock. When the season rolls around, that being kind of the winter season, when you get the more of the stouts and things. Um, but the chocolate milk stout is, I mean, and I'm a dark beer guy to begin with. John knows I like porters, stouts, you know, especially when I was younger. Now, as much, they take a little more toll on me. But the Four Hands chocolate milk stout, like my wife who doesn't enjoy beer also likes these. Like if that says anything, but it's also a really good beer. Like it's got good deep flavor. Like when you hear chocolate milk, you're like, oh, I don't know. Like the milk part worried me when I heard about it because you see chocolate stouts all the time, but kind of the smoothness that comes with kind of that chocolate milk kind of feel they put into it. Oh, it's just
Oh yeah.
so dang good. So shout out to Four Hands chocolate milk stout. I want the weather to get cold again so it can be chocolate milk stout season.
Yeah, and if you go to the Four Hands location, they'll sometimes have different like variations of it. Like they have the peanut butter chocolate milk stout, which they sell in stores sometimes too. It's
Mm-hmm.
not quite as common as the regular one, but you can find it. They have one called the Fat Elvis, which is banana and peanut butter, and it is very much a I will drink exactly one of those and proceed to not drink anymore because you'll get sick of it quickly. But the good
Yeah,
place, and
shout out to Four Hands. Maybe my favorite overall brewery, but I don't like a lot of like their big ones. It's weird. Like I'm not a big like citywide fan, but
yeah, sea white's okay. Like I'll drink it, but I think a lot of it's also just kind of this very St. Louis marketing, which I guess would fit the 314 theme of our raft. But
yeah, it's very much the opposite for a lot of their marketing, I guess, in terms of how we were discussing Schlafly being extremely universal, where it's like our brand name does the talking, if you will. So
yeah. All right. So I am up next, and I am going to. Give me just one moment here. I have a quote I want to use to introduce my next selection, but unfortunately my searching is not working out super well. That is not the quote I'm using for this particular one, but I appreciate it anyway. This is a
nice.
quote from a young man, and by a young man I mean a man that's been dead for 40 something years, 43 years I guess. Um, Out of the aforementioned town of Liverpool by the name of John Lennon. And he said, if you tried to give rock and roll another name, you might call it Chuck Berry. That is why I'm choosing Chuck Berry with my draft pick. He is the true king of rock and roll. I'm not somebody that's trying to like degrade Elvis because I feel like Elvis is kind of like people kind of went over the top with their criticisms of Elvis Presley, but Chuck Berry is so much more like innovative of a force, and just like the style of like guitar rock that he played was really kind of the forebearer for most of what we kind of learned to embrace as like a musical society. Like you can hear Chuck Berry riffs in like AC/DC songs very easily, and like that kind of thing. And he's from St. Louis. There are some things in his personal life that I do not condone, but in terms of musical contribution, I think that like in terms of like the most important, I would say the most important artists of any like variety of art from St. Louis, I think he's like clearly number one in terms of his importance in the world.
Yeah, I mean, very much a an influence. And it's funny we brought up Tom's. I don't know if you remember, we were at Tom's the day that he
Yes.
passed,
Yes.
and there was a guy who was like dead set on doing like multiple Chuck Berry songs. And to be fair, he did very well at that. Like it wasn't well, one of them was okay. The other one I don't think was very good. But
And he was doing like they weren't deep cuts, but he wasn't doing Johnny Be Good either. He was doing
yeah,
like
and it
it
was like,
really
all
felt
right,
like he was like trying to like heal the city, which he was pretty old. I don't think the city was really that hung up on his death, but still
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, and I think, it's one of those where, yeah, I don't know what else you can say. I mean, Chuck Berry, obviously, he performed here a lot through his entire life. Um, you know, even
I
if,
never made it to one of his Blueberry Hill performances, and that was a real
yeah,
I blew it there.
yeah, I really wish that I would have done that as well. Like, I remember always wanting to, and then just, I don't know, I was a dumb kid at times in my life, I guess, and made bad decisions and didn't go to Chuck Berry concerts when I could have. But yeah, I mean, he's when you talk about musicians from St. Louis, like he stands out kind of in a league of his own, and then you get to some other very notable, famous singers, I think. But none of them, I think, are as influential, especially on the world of rock and roll, like you were saying. He
Yeah,
was.
I think the only other one that you could kind of put in a similar kind of boat would be like Ike Turner, but that
Ike
also kind
Turner.
of gets into speaking of people whose lives are pretty questionable
Yeah,
outside of
I
the
mean,
music.
with the power of
But
hindsight, yes.
but I think that his ties to St. Louis are not as strong. I think a lot of different places claim him. Like saying you're the land of Lincoln. There's like 3 states that claim Abe Lincoln, but there's also
You have the
like,
land of Lincoln, the birthplace of Lincoln, is what like Kentucky claims, I think.
well, yes, and that's also correct. So that's fair.
I mean, it is correct. You are correct there.
But like also with Ike Turner, unless you're talking like Ike and Tina Turner era, which is had some popular songs, but is not considered the influential work of like his '50s stuff. But like no one's playing Ike Turner music for like recreational purposes. You could like
No.
I'm not gonna lie and say that I'm like blasting Johnny Be Good on like a daily basis or anything, but like it is like a perfectly listenable song, even though it was released like before my parents were born.
Yeah. No, for sure. It's there's something about that. And I think me and you are probably maybe older souls even than some people who are, throwing
Oh
on,
my, yes.
throwing on, some, you know, early rock is not out of the realm of possibility for what we'll listen to. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
he was the man and a great ambassador for the most part for the city. So R.I.P. Chuck Berry.
All right, you're up.
All right. Can go a couple of different ways, but you know what? We've gotten away from food a little bit, and I've actually not drafted any food items yet. I realized I have
That's
two
true. That's
drinks.
two very good drinks, though. You gotta add something to the fray.
Yeah, gotta have it. And so what I'm gonna take, I knew I could get this one a little later. I think from you, John. I'm taking the pork steak. I'm gonna take the pork steak.
Oh,
Um, you know,
I think of the foods that are like meals. I think this is the right call.
yes, I think that I'll go on record in saying that maybe the two most famous things St. Louis for is famous for, like I think we would both agree are overrated.
Yes,
In terms of it, not to say it's not good, but
correct. Yeah.
a pork steak, and this can maybe become another nostalgic thing for me too. But like this was like every like holiday, whether it's Fourth of July, um, like Labor Day weekend, Memorial Day weekend. Dad would get the big old family pack of pork steaks and slather them up with barbecue sauce on the grill, and that was part of the meal. So I done it here, and it breaks my heart that my wife, who is perfect in almost every way, is just not a fan of pork steak. But what that also means now is when I buy pork steak and make it, I get to eat all of it. So
That's a good point. On Yeah, I'm in a similar boat when it comes to St. Louis style pizza, which as we kind of danced around,
yeah,
that I like it because it's pizza, but it's not like I'm ever like, oh, St. Louis style pizza is like the clear best. I think that people who hate on it too aggressively, but I think that it's not my favorite style of like local pizza. Like Chicago has us beat there. I will freely admit that one.
Yeah, I don't know. See, here's the thing. I mean, I don't want to get into a fight with Chicago here. I'm not a huge deep dish guy, but Chicago thin is definitely very good. I think Detroit has both of them beat. I'm a big Detroit pan pizza guy.
Oh yeah, I'm big on Detroit. So the local pizza place by me actually mostly does St. Louis style pizza. They actually just put a Detroit style on their menu. I haven't had it yet, but I'm pretty excited
Oh
to
man,
give it a whirl at some point.
say color me jealous there, but yes, for anyone who doesn't know what a pork steak is, it's just a cut of the pork butt with the kind of the T-bone in it, and apparently, like I didn't realize that this was a St. Louis thing for a very long time. That people
Yeah,
didn't like just regularly make this, and it's very fatty. It's you have to cook it for a long time. If you're going straight grilling it, expect a lot of flare up because it's the fat and it's pork fat, so it'll flare up on you. But it's just so good. Like I still buy it once or twice a year down here. I have a smoker now, so I'll smoke it almost up to temp and then reverse sear it. So good. But getting hungry just talking about it.
all right. I guess I should move on to something that is not food then. I'm gonna go with something that I think is in the firmly like underrated parts of St. Louis that I don't think people really appreciate, and honestly, I don't use it as much as I'd like to. But St. Louis MetroLink is really good. Like, it is not like inevitable that if there's like a rapid transit system, you're gonna compare it to like the New York City subway or the Chicago L, and it's not that level obviously, and it covers a much smaller area. But if you happen to be like going from point A to point B, that's like near the route, it's always on time. It's always efficient. You know, people always make a huge deal out of any kind of like incident that happens on the MetroLink, but it's still way safer than driving. It's still more convenient. I have a MetroLink. So there's not a MetroLink stop really by my house, but there is one pretty close to my work that I'm like walk to from my work. And so like about a month ago I had a flight. So I literally just walked to the MetroLink station and took it to the airport and didn't have to park at the airport, and that's something that not every city can boast. The system in Kansas City, for instance, is not to that level, and I remember a few months ago there was some article that ranked St. Louis as like I think it was like number 12 or 13 or something for uh like best cities around without a car in, and a lot of people in St. Louis were like really critical of like, oh, you guys have no idea, and I think that's actually St. Louisans just underselling themselves slash maybe overrating how many cities like really have that nailed down. But I'm somebody that doesn't really like driving that much, so there's just something really comforting about like, hey, I can just kind of sit here and just like play on my phone or whatever, or listen to music and just kind of do my own thing and let something else take care of it. It's cheap, it's efficient. Um, if they could ever get MetroLink expanded further, I would like pay any amount of money to get that going.
No, absolutely. I think, and I'm somebody. I'm with you. Like I I don't mind driving a whole lot, but what I don't like doing necessarily is I'm not a big driving in the city person. That's not my forte. Just growing up in the suburbs, so like to go to baseball games and stuff, to have it drop you off right next to Busch Stadium or right next to the arena if you're going to a hockey game.
Yeah, it's very nice. And honestly, the bigger thing to me when it comes, especially with sporting events, it's not so much the driving to them as the parking at them. That
Yeah.
part is well, not only is it
Yes.
like too expensive, but it's you end up parking like if you park too close, it's gonna be impossible to get out. If you park too far away, you're gonna get out of the parking spot more easily, but you're gonna have to walk a long way. And at that point, it just seems like you're wasting your money.
Yeah, and it's like people might complain. Yeah, it can be a wait sometimes after if you're at a baseball game. You know, it's not a short wait necessarily to
Yeah.
hit your line back, but like you said, bring a pair of headphones. Like I know for a fact. Like I plan this summer when I'm up there sometime to take my son to a game. My son is a big fan of trains. I think he'll have the time of his life. He'll probably like the ride better than going to the stadium because he'll probably be like, "Oh, cool, baseball for half an inning," and be like, "Dad, I want ice cream." So it's he'll be 4 this summer. So, but yeah, I mean the Metrolink that's a great pick. I didn't even think of it, but I mean I'm a big
Yes.
fan and I utilize it a lot. I wish, yeah, like you, I think I'd love for them to take it further south. Because it's still a little bit of a drive whenever I do visit from my parents' house to hit the furthest south station. But shout out to the blue line heading south and red line heading north. So
Yes. So this last summer, I went to a soccer game. It wasn't a single city one, but it was at the stadium. It was a U.S. national game. And rather than driving down there and dealing with like crazy expensive the parking is around the stadium, I drove to the Shrewsbury Metrolink station and I just parked my car there and I took the Metrolink down and wrote it down. And while I was waiting for it after the game, I did have to wait a little bit, but I was able to watch the last 3 outs of Domingo Herman's perfect game. And if I had been driving, I wouldn't have been able to safely do that. So,
see, take the Metrolink, guys.
absolutely.
All right.
All right. How many more
Say,
rounds do we want to do?
you want to say 2 each?
Sure.
Why not? So this one's shot up the ranks for me a little bit lately, especially when I visit because, like I've alluded to, I have kids now. But I'm going to take the staple of Kirkwood, and I'm going with the Magic House as my next pick.
I thought you were going to go with the zoo there, which is the obvious pick, but the Magic House is
I
yeah,
mean, the
no argument
zoo.
from me.
I mean, to be fair, like I won't. I could go on a very long rant about the zoo and how much I love it, and the fact that it's free. Um,
Yeah.
But I'll leave that open because you may still want to take the zoo. I don't know. But the Magic House, and it's frankly because I've been there because when I've visited more recently, it's been cold with my family. So we've gone there, but like, I remember going there when I was a kid, but I don't remember it all that much. But like being able to experience it like through my son, especially because to be fair, my daughter is 4 months old and hasn't been and couldn't really do anything even if we did go. But
Sure. Yeah.
it's one of those places. It's like an indoor playground on steroids. Like you have everything in there teaching them science, but then there's also like an area where they can learn all these different things. They can work inside of a grocery store and play with that. Play in a veterinary office. Play in a pizza parlor. Play as a mechanic, a recycle truck driver, whatever. And that's just one of the rooms. Like, could definitely be an all-day affair type deal at the Magic House. Highly recommend it. I believe, actually, even for other parents, if there's any other parents listening, it was visited by the internet sensation Blippy and Mika, his friend, I believe, also saw an episode where they went there as well as the Science Center. But the cost isn't outrageous for what you get, kind of a thing. It's in Kirkwood, which shout out, I lived there for a little while in downtown Kirkwood. I do like that area. But like a good fun place to take kids, that I went to more often. That's sort of a staple in St. Louis, so I'll take that.
Yeah, so I haven't been to this is probably not surprising since I don't have children, but I haven't been to the Magic House in like 25 years, but loved it when I was a kid though, so I'm
Yeah. Well,
not
when
gonna
I
argue
lived in
against it.
Kirkwood, I actually went to an adults only night there where they shut it down
Wow.
and kids could go play. It was 21, and like with your ticket price, like you basically got like as many Bud and Bud Lights as you wanted. Like it was fantastic. Um, so that was fun. But that's
That
been
sounds
a few
fun.
years. I don't know if they do that anymore, but yeah. If you have kids, check that in the zoo out. But
All right, I am gonna go back to the well of food.
good call.
It's little bit of a cliche, but gotta love Ted Drew's.
Yeah.
It's I'm personally, I mean, the cliche thing to do is to go to Ted Drew's after you go to like a baseball game or the Muni or something. I'm a big fan of going to Ted Drew's during kind of weird times because there's a way less of a line.
There's not exactly. I guess they have more parking now, but it used to be a nightmare with that tiny lot.
Yeah, the parking lot is. I really even try to do the parking lot even during off times. I usually just kind of go into like one of the neighborhoods that's nearby. It's like if I'm walking a couple blocks, that's making me feel less bad about what I'm about to eat. But Ted
Yeah.
Drew's is delicious frozen custard. Uh, I don't necessarily have like one like go-to flavor. Kind of mix it up between a few. Price is pretty good considering it's like an
Mhm.
institution that they could charge a lot for, but it's like about the same price as like if you went to Dairy Queen and got a Blizzard, which is a comparable product. But
Yeah.
uh,
Inferior comparable product, yes.
Ted Drew's is not so. I don't live nor do I work super close to it, but it's like maybe like 2 minutes out of the way of like my route. I have
Mhm.
managed to avoid succumbing to temptation too much on that, which is good. But you know,
Yeah.
I wouldn't blame myself.
Oh, it's definitely one. I mean, I actually grew up, and my pediatrician was right down the street from Ted Drew's. So my mom had to get sick of every single time 'cause it was on Chippewa where my doctor was. So you pass right by it, and every single time, but Mom, go to Ted Drew's after the doctor. No, go to Ted Drew's after. No. So it was like,
It is a weird thing to kind of put in combination with going to like a medical facility.
yeah. I mean, we were kids, we didn't care. But yeah, I mean, for you, where you sound like you mix up, I am a strict person who I basically only get one thing when I go there, just because I love it. I'm a big fan. Shout out to the Crater Copernicus, which is a piece of devil's food cake then topped with ice cream and hot fudge and a cherry.
Ooh,
It is delectable.
sounds delicious.
I haven't been in a few years though, actually, so I need to get there. And then also, doesn't have to do with Ted Drew's, but it's on the same road. Shout out to the Donut Drive-In, which is just down the road from Ted Drew's.
I've never been to it, but I've driven past it hundreds of times, and I've always been curious about
It
it.
used to be a thing when I was growing up. We would stop there because they had a really good cinnamon twist donuts. So like after going to like a baseball game, my dad would come up from the city that way, and we'd get like a dozen cinnamon twists to take him home, and have half of them eaten before we even got home. But
Yeah, that sounds premier.
it was pretty fantastic. So man, I'm torn now with this last pick. I'm gonna take the one that's the lesser known because I'm torn between two restaurants here that I
Okay.
want to give shout outs to. But the one I'm gonna go with, and it's one that, and the reason I'm gonna pick it is because every time I go home, this is the place I want to go to, and that is Paschetti's. Yes, the sandwich
Hmm.
and pasta place Paschetti's.
The fairly recent champion of a bracket to determine the sandwich in St. Louis that a lot of people got mad at because it's not within the borders of St. Louis. But
I mean, I could see the argument there. They have, a few locations. The one on South Limburg is the one I'm the most intimately involved with, and dude, this is maybe my favorite bread ever. If you don't know what to expect going in, it's a little bit of a sweeter bread. Um, and it's a no frills kind of, you can get different hot, cold sandwiches. You can get pasta. Uh, cheese garlic bread there is off the wall.
yeah, that's my
Um,
favorite thing. There is the cheese
you
garlic
know,
bread.
cheese garlic bread. Also, pepperoni pizza bread, pretty fantastic there, or just the regular pizza bread. Um, and their even their regular sub, it's very simple. It's like ham. What is it? I forget. I don't even remember what it is, but I've eaten so many of their just regular subs in my life that like that was the staple. Like if we were having a party and it was going to be like sandwiches, we would get Paschetti sandwiches and everything. So, while it may be a controversial thing, like for me, that's the place that every time I go home, I'm like, how can I sneak Paschetti's in? Um, you know, there's other places that I love to go to as well, uh, but and I could tell you that one of them is not emos. Yeah, that's right. come at me, emos. You're too dang expensive.
Whitaker's.
Cecil Whitaker's all day. Big fan of
Cheaper,
Uncle
better.
Leo's, which used to be a Cecil Whitaker's, and then they lost the franchise and did their own thing. But it's. I think to me, Piscetti's is just. It's one of those places too. Like you're not going to spend a ton of money there either. Like it's fairly reasonably priced. Like you're talking about, it's and you're going to walk out and you're like, well, this was a fantastic idea. So, shout out Piscetti's.
Yeah, I was tempted to throw a pizza place on my list, but I think my favorite pizza place in St. Louis is Blackthorn, which is a place that specializes in deep dish. And while I like
That,
it a lot, it just doesn't feel true to the form of what we're doing here.
yeah, that would be a
So
little weird.
it's really good, and it has really cheap beer that you can drink while you're waiting because you will wait a long time.
Yeah, but beer makes the wait more tolerable, I suppose.
It's true. All right, so my pick is I have a final pick here. You know me. You know that I like a good deal. You know that I like to
I have
get
been
by.
known. You have been
So
known
that
to.
is like a deal. So that is why I am going with the cheapest, most pleasurable local food that I could think of, and that is Gus's Pretzels.
That was the other one I was deciding between when I said Piscetti's.
Nice. All right, I was kind of wondering if that was qualifying as a restaurant, but so Gus's Pretzels is the food, and you remember this, but for my wedding, we bought a bunch of Gus's Pretzels as basically like kind of pregame food because you can just buy so many of them for so cheap. It is a standard like road trip food where we'll get like half dozen stick pretzels and a bag of ends, and the total bill will be like $6 or $7. It's just like crazy cheap, and it's soft pretzels. It's not like it's gonna be the heartiest food in the world, though they do have other like sandwiches there. They have like
Yeah.
bratwurst, hot dogs, and stuff, which I've actually never had. I always just want pretzels,
Just give me pretzels.
but
Let's see.
yeah, that's where I go, and it's just a really every once in a while on like a Saturday morning, I just kind of think to myself, Gus's sounds good, and it's not that long of a journey to get there. It's extremely quick process because even if there's a line, people are just kind of ordering the same thing, so it goes by quickly, and it's delicious. And I don't think I've ever had Gus's and regretted the decision before.
No, it's pretty fantastic. I mean, like you said, it's cheap, it's fast. Get you in, get you out, and you know what you're getting. I'm a guy who enjoys his pretzels. And I don't even know if I'd say it's like my favorite pretzel in the entire world. Like I've had some others that are
Yeah,
probably better, but
I
for
will
what
say
you,
for people who haven't had it, it's a pretty low frills pretzel. It's not like it's like Auntie Anne's where it's like flavored with sugar or have it like it's pretty much just kind of like a
a little
decent
breadier than
version.
maybe you're used to, but
Yeah.
it's still really good. And the fact that it comes in the sticks, there's something about just like having a Gus's pretzel stick and just chomping on it.
Yeah,
That's
like
magical.
I've had the ones that are like the conventional pretzel shape before,
Mhm.
and they taste pretty much the same, but there's something about the stick. It does just kind of feel like that's the way I go. You don't really see the street vendors as much as you used to. It used to be like a standard thing as you would see people selling Gus's pretzels like on street corners.
Mhm. I mean, I'd be lying to you if I said I hadn't bought from them before because I'm like,
Oh yeah.
yes. People would do that like on the sidewalks as you were like walk up to the stadium and stuff. I don't know. People would just have like boxes of Gus's pretzels that they'd be reselling.
People still do that though.
Do they do
That
that
still
still?
exists. Yeah.
I don't ever walk up because I take the MetroLink callback.
True.
But yeah, I mean, it's a classic staple, and like they also do things that are really crazy. Like I had somebody for me one time for my birthday, like give me a giant like St. Louis Blues logo pretzel from there. That took me like 6 days to finish. And that was while
Yeah,
eating a lot of pretzel. Um,
yeah. I got my my name in pretzels one time. That was pretty fun.
yeah, yeah, they do fun things like that. So it's and it's not it's in the city, but it's not real far in the city.
Yeah, it's
So
it's pretty close to the Anheuser-Busch Brewery, and I know that that's a pretty one of the big business drivers is that it's a very popular place for AB employees for lunch because
yeah,
it's the hour pretty much like it closes at like 5 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday.
but
Yeah,
what
good
place is
stuff.
good though? They don't got to stay open all night. They're like, you come to us. So yeah, I mean, I know that there's many a time, like you said, your wedding and anytime we've taken road trips to go places that I've stopped there with you in the morning to grab
Yeah,
a box of pretzels, and they might make it to the destination, but they might not too. So
it's the magic. They won't be good the next day, but they will be good a few hours later. So
yeah, that is the one caveat. I will say if you do plan on keeping them, putting like a moist paper towel inside of a Ziploc bag with them does help a little bit. But other than that, yeah, it's not a safe for later snack. If you get it, eat it. And if you don't think you're going to eat it, find a person on the streets of St. Louis, say, "Hey, man, would you like to discuss this pretzel?" And chances are they'll say, "Absolutely."
they
So
will proceed to build churches in your honor. So,
yeah, I mean,
and really, who can
yeah,
blame them?
no, I mean, So I know that we've ended the actual draft, but I'm sure we'll have a lot of people either about pizza or Provel cheese to get mad about. Like, to be fair, I don't dislike those things. And Piscetti's actually in a lot of those things uses Provel cheese. So I just
Yeah,
toasted ravioli. I think we are in agreement. It's good. It's fine, but I don't get
it's it's never my first choice.
yeah. Like, even as an appetizer, I'm not like, well, let's get the toasted ravioli unless it's like a place that's specifically like known for it or something like that. Which I know
Sure.
there's a few of those on the Hill and things like that. Which shout out to the Hill in St.
That
Louis.
was that was actually the next thing on my list that I didn't draft was the hill.
Yeah, I was like bouncing between like different restaurants down there, the Hill, but it was like, yeah, we could go on forever. I think drafting things, you know, about St. Louis, just with all the memories there. I mean, like I said, the zoo is a place we didn't see. It's like the third largest zoo in the U.S. and it's free. Like, if you
Yeah.
find street parking, you can literally have an entire day at the zoo for free. Uh, you know, which let's give a shout out because I know that he'll be leaving us soon to Raja, the
To a
male
real one.
elephant. It's like, I remember, when that got announced, it was something I was like, I always used to be like, man, how can people get so mad about certain things? And like, but then I remember like getting emotional about the fact that this elephant that was born at the zoo in my lifetime was leaving. And I'm like, seems silly, but like, for anyone who's not from St. Louis, when this male elephant was born at the St. Louis Zoo, like, the world stopped in the city. The city stopped because this was like huge. So,
Yeah, it was like basically what I imagine England was like whenever the like Prince William's children were born or whatever,
yeah,
and Kate whatever's going with her, but
yeah. I mean, it's or what was it? Fiona, the hippo in Cincinnati, I think.
well, sure, yeah.
Some different things, but yeah, I mean, the zoo though, and it's like it's certainly an all-day affair as big as it is. Like, you know, I have
It's
fond
enormous.
memories of waking up early, driving down to Forest Park, and my dad, if at all possible, would try to park like in the lot, like next to Art Hill and the art museum, because it's a fairly short walk to the gate.
Fair enough.
But I mean, my dad, like you, was cheap. You can pay to park there right next door, but it's like $15 or something. But
Yeah, you'd have to have a lot of people in the car to justify it, but
or have young children that you just don't want to haul halfway through Forest Park. But But Forest Park in general, if
Sure.
you're looking for a good cheap time, the art museum's free, I believe. The history museum is free, which underrated place.
Yeah.
The Missouri History
History.
Museum.
Yeah, I've only been a couple times actually, and it was all like while in my 30s. But yeah, very cool place.
Yeah. Or Science Center, obviously. Fun hack there. Park at the planetarium and walk over. It's free. Um, but yeah, I
Glad
mean, I
to
think,
glad to be teaching people how to avoid paying for parking.
hey, we got to have a brand and something, right?
I mean, I started it by bringing up the virtues of the MetroLink, and I stand by all of this.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because I know what's MetroLink up to, like $5.50 for a round trip or something like that.
I think it's 5 for a
Is it
round
5
trip.
for a round trip? I couldn't remember. I did it. I did it to Bush last year for a game that ended up getting rained out.
Ugh.
It was a whole St. Louis trip to go to a baseball game that I didn't get to go to. But
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I went to several baseball games last year, and you didn't miss much.
I mean, that's entirely fair. And hey, half the team's on IR to start the year, so
Yeah. But yeah, so for a draft, we were like, oh, this is going to be like any episode. We got like a full length episode out of this while
yeah,
not
but I
really
think it's a good
preparing
idea.
that much for it. Oh yeah. So do you have anything else on your list that you wanted to throw out there?
Um,
I
I
have
mean,
two more. Now that you took the hill, I have two more things on my list.
I think the only other one I had on my list that we sort of tangentially hit, um, it is and more like the experience of a St. Louis Battlehawks game. Like
Yeah.
that's a cool thing, and I think it's only going to be cooler this year as they get a little more solidified in this UFL.
Yeah,
Everything
I
like
think
that.
that, and I kind of mentioned how I didn't pick the Cardinals and you picked the Blues, but they weren't really on my radar. I think that the lower level teams, you have St. Louis City, you have
Mhm.
the Battlehawks. It really does just kind of underscore like the general insanity that St. Louisans have for sports, that getting that invested in what is effectively minor league sports. Like obviously MLS is the top league in the United States, but it's nowhere near the top league in the world for the sport. But
Yeah,
people still embrace it wholeheartedly.
yeah. I mean, maybe you would just say the sports culture in St. Louis. Like I'm not one of those people who's like, oh, St. Louis is a great sports city, but like it's passionate. Like you got to give it that. But as we've
Yeah,
seen with other teams, that you got to put the work in if you're the ownership and stuff, because and I think that was sort of the narrative with Kroenke and things like that, obviously. And Cardinals didn't draw very well last year, but they weren't very good.
yeah, I'm fond of pointing out that whenever the Sporting News had that legendary "The Best Sports City" cover, it was right after the Rams won the Super Bowl. The Cardinals had just had like the McGuire run, and they were about to win the division easily, and the Blues had just won the President's Trophy. Like,
Yeah,
eventually, and this is true of basically every city, you get
yeah,
associated with what your sports teams do as far as how like good of fans you are. Like, if you see like lists of like the greatest NFL fan bases, that ends up being like Packers, Steelers, and it's like, oh,
yeah,
teams that are good all the time. Got it. Okay.
yeah. Shockingly, the Jacksonville Jaguars don't hit that list.
Yeah, weird. I wonder why that is.
Hmm.
But and that's why I never get too adamant about like how great Cardinals fans are, because last year notwithstanding, the Cardinals are pretty much good most years. Like even when they're
Yeah,
not great, they're like pretty good. And but then also by the same token, I get very defensive about the Rams, where I'm like, well, like the fact that anyone's showing up when the team's like overtly trying to move is kind of a miracle in and of itself. So
yeah. So, what are the other two things that you said you had?
number one, or I mean, this is kind of, I didn't really rank them that much, but the institution of trivia nights. Obviously, like bar trivia and stuff exists in other places, but just
Oh
the
yeah,
idea of like a classic like fundraiser type place. The two of us have been to all sorts of trivia nights
oh man,
before,
yeah,
and Yeah, I just went to a trivia night on Saturday. It was great, except for the guy trying to argue with me that the director of Barbie was Margot Robbie, but I eventually convinced the person writing down the answers that I was right. And then we have a 3-hour podcast to prove that I knew that. And then my other one that I had, and this is maybe a little more of like what it represents, but I have Patios, the bar that's right next to Busch Stadium. I actually don't know that I love patios that much. Like it's kind of overpriced. I kind of like a place that has draft beer, but the idea that it's still as popular as it is when like the Cardinals built up this enormous entertainment village like on the other side of the stadium, and people in St. Louis are like, yeah, this is like basically like going to Walmart for me. Like we're gonna go to like the kind of dingy place that's not as pretty, and I think that kind of speaks to like the way St. Louis like fundamentally behaves.
Yeah, no, it's you give me that versus BPV. I'm gonna take patios probably just about every time. Like,
Yeah, the time I went to Ballpark Village last year, the one time I did was because there was a tornado warning, and that was a building I could find.
that's a
So,
that is a good reason.
and I ordered drinks there. They were overpriced, but they were also protecting me from a tornado. So,
Yeah, I mean,
whatever.
it's. I mean, to be fair, it's no shade to like BPV, but also, I mean, it was also a mess when it kind of opened with like the dress code they were trying to like institute at one point,
Yeah,
and
the fact that it took years for it to actually get built when it was
yeah.
supposedly like
But you want
within
to
a
know
year
something
it was
funny?
being
I've still never been to Ballpark Village.
really.
Yep,
Huh.
I've been by it a lot, but
Yeah, you're not missing a lot. Like
yeah, I mean,
there are
it's
a lot of bars that are like charging for the fact that they're located by the stadium,
yeah,
and there's just not really like, so they do have like an area that's like right outside the stadium where you can play like bags and stuff that's nice on like a nice day. But like the once you go inside the places, it just doesn't do a lot for me.
yeah,
It would never be
no,
my first choice.
yeah, no. I mean, and to go back to your trivia nights thing, I mean, obviously, a love of trivia is something that we both uh, have. So there's
Yeah.
nothing there. I mean, my dad writes 3 or 4 trivia nights a year. He actually just did one earlier this year for my uncle, who's a teacher at a school in Cape Girardeau, that he wrote for them down there and did like because my dad, who obviously instilled my love of trivia in me when I was growing up. His Saturday night, if we weren't doing anything, he would leave his entire family behind. This is after I had moved out of the house and stuff usually, but my dad would go and crash trivia nights. So he would like contact them
So
throughout
cool.
the week and be like, "Hey, if I come by myself, do you guys think you'd have an opening at a table you can set me at?" So shout out to my dad. He doesn't do that too much anymore. Now that he's retired, I think he's less stressed and doesn't need that to necessarily decompress. Still plays in plenty of trivia's, but you know, he's he's an OG in that could show up at a trivia night and he like there's legitimately like people show up and like crud that team's here and like there's known like power teams that go to these trivia nights and stuff. It's a weird culture, but and then I don't know if they still do it, but when they used to do the huge St. Louis sports trivia downtown at I think at the Enterprise Center, right? That's where they used to do it.
I think so. I've never done. I know we've done like they had like a remote one. I think that was maybe in like 2022 or so.
Yeah,
Whenever it was still like a little like it was probably the last one they did before they went back to doing it in person kind of thing. But
yeah, yeah. And it was like my dad had a chance to actually play in that one year with a guy he goes to church with, whose company bought a table. But I actually went with my dad one time. I think it was the first year they did it, and you could go as a spectator. So me and my dad went
wow,
and sat in the seats. We were one of maybe a dozen people in the arena that weren't working or playing in the trivia. But like they
sure.
had like bubble hockey tables set up on the concourse, so I played that with
That
my
sounds like
dad.
a lot of fun. Yeah,
Yeah, like we made like friends, like we're obviously playing along with the questions, and one of the guys who was working in one of the concession stands just like came up, was hanging out with us, like, and then just started bringing us free food from the concession stand because we were just chatting and answering questions and stuff. So it was like it's one of those core memories that I'm gonna have, um, you know, with my dad. And this was probably, I mean, I don't know, 2002, 2003, maybe something like that. Like I was probably maybe a teenager kind of a thing. So, but yes, the concept of trivia nights, like I want them to become more prevalent where I live now, because bar trivia is prevalent, but I can't go play bar trivia with two young kids.
Well, I mean, the problem with bar trivia, and like I get why it is, but like they don't put bar trivia on Friday and Saturday nights. They put it on like Tuesday or Wednesday night because they're trying to bring people in during less
Bring people
popular
in, right?
days. And like
Yeah,
I'm still willing to do it, and like I don't have I don't have a child, so I'm not held back in that regard. But I am held back in the regard of like if I'm at a bar till 10:30, 11 at night, I'm going to be really tired the next morning.
yeah, like I mean, it's one of those things. Like we have an Alamo Draft House here, which I don't know if the one in St. Louis is open yet. They've been building it for a while.
It is
It
open.
seems
I have
like,
not been to it.
but the bar there does like have movie trivia like once a week, where they have a theme category, and the rest of it's just I'm like I want to play it so bad, but it's on like I don't know. I think it's either Tuesday or Wednesdays, but you know, yeah. But that's Springfield. We can do that draft on April 17th, the 417 draft.
Yeah, we got to cover all the various
Draft
area
our
codes.
yeah, draft our favorite things about Springfield.
That's our famous former Springfield Cardinals.
There you go.
I'm trading up just so I can get Brad Pitt.
Dang it. Hey, we got Bob Barker too, man. Just saying.
May he rest in peace.
May he rest in peace and have his pets spayed or neutered.
That's right. Anyway,
Yeah, but
spaying and neutering pets. Yeah.
Yeah. Big gulps, huh? Well.
All right.
Yeah.
So that was not as quick of a draft as we planned, but I think compared to last episode, I think people will be delighted to see that we have not completely lost our minds.
Yeah. And then I don't. Do we want to recap the
Yeah,
draft?
I took notes of the drafts. So your picks were the St. Louis Blues. The question: where did you go to high school? Vest Soda, pronouncing it Highway Farty Far. Four Hands Chocolate Milk Stout, Pork Steaks, The Magic House, and Piskettis. My picks were Gooey Butter Cake, Red Hot Riplets, just conceptually hating Stan Kroenke. You'd incorporate Kroenke socks in there as well, I guess. The Schlafly Pumpkin Ale, Chuck Berry, the Metrolink, Ted Drew's Frozen Custard, and Gus's Pretzels. Not to St. Louis. St. Louis has some cool stuff. They're solid teams all around.
You know, I mean, there are worse places to randomly just have your parents be living when you're born.
Yeah.
You know?
I say this all the time, but there is something very funny to me about people that like degrade like any city that's large enough to have like a major sports team. It's like, look, if you can't like go to St. Louis or go to like, Cincinnati or go to, Pittsburgh or whatever and like have a fun weekend there, you just aren't very interesting, man. I don't know what to tell you. Like,
Yeah. Like, I love visiting St. Louis now. Like, honestly, as a person who doesn't live there, like, I didn't appreciate it enough when I lived there. But to be fair, I was also, I didn't get to do any of the fun alcohol things when I lived there for the most part because it was shortly after I finished school and came back.
I was gonna say you were 23 when you moved?
23 when I moved.
Okay, yeah.
But, yeah. So, yeah, it was. But, it's a good city, y'all. Like, if you don't like all the things, like, it's a diverse enough of a place, you can find something you'll enjoy there. Like, there's some good times to be had.
Yeah, and like we mentioned Hill, obviously they have a lot of Italian food there. A
Great
lot
Italian
of
food.
great Chinese restaurants around the area. Neither of us drafted the St. Paul sandwich, but that's a
Yeah.
classic of the
You
local
know, if
cuisine.
you want the heart attack, you can go to Crown Candy, right? You can get
Yeah,
the
Cherokee Street has a ton of great Mexican restaurants. There's really good Cinco de Mayo. Soulard has the second biggest Mardi Gras in the country. There's a lot that we left on the table. We could have done this draft all night, but
goes to the World's
instead,
Fair and an Olympics. I mean,
that's true. Now, was it the most poorly run Olympics in the history of the event? Well, you
only
know,
time we weren't there, so we can't say. But I mean,
yeah.
it was
I mean,
also
I've
the third modern Olympics or whatever.
look, I've seen the John Boy's video on the marathon, and it seems like it didn't go super well, but it still
Yeah,
happened. We've had an Olympics. That's pretty cool.
yeah. I mean, that's yeah. And another one I thought of and I didn't have my list, but like Camo X is a big thing, especially
Yeah,
before we were born. Like how far that radio station would reach. It's how the Cardinals kind of built such a big fan base before the MLB really expanded west. It's how Jack Buck became the legend. You know, partially became the legend he is. And,
yeah.
a
Like
lot of
Harry
things.
Carey got his big start here.
Yep.
Bob Costas got his start on saying St. Louis Spirits games on KMOX. There's
Trey Wingo worked at News Channel 5, I believe.
He did, yeah.
Thanks for getting rid of Steve Savard and sending him our way. So I do get him on local news now, so that's fun.
I miss Steve.
I guess whenever he pops up on commercials, like when I'm watching TV on the affiliate that he works for, I'm like, it just warms my heart a little bit.
That's beautiful.
But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and get this one wrapped up. Make sure that it's ready to go for 3/14.
314, baby. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shoot us some comments, about things that you guys like about it. Our Twitter handle, on Twitter, our handle is @DraftDayPod. You can find me at DraftDayDadShaw if you want to make fun of my picks, and you can find John at JohnJF125.
That's true. I don't think anyone's going to make fun of your picks, and I don't think anyone's going to make fun of my picks because, look, one of us may have won the draft more than the other, but neither of us lost the draft. We have some
I agree.
solid squads here.
Yeah, and it's when you're drafting things you like about a place. All right, Blues, what are you doing? Giving up goals now. Stop it.
That's your number one overall pick, the St. Louis Blues.
I mean, to be fair, they're still up, but
that's true.
Anyway,
all right.
Thanks for sticking around with us, guys. We'll see you next time.
And happy 314.